Hello, everybody, and welcome to this awesome interview with our good friend, Dr. Bruno Chikly. It is great to have you online with us today. How are you doing today, Bruno?
Great. Very happy to be here, Don. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. So, why don't you give us a little bit of a story about yourself so you can introduce yourself to the audience? Go sell yourself. Give it to them. What do you got?
Are not doing stories. We're ego assassins. Are getting beyond the story. I was born in Paris, a place with a lot of elitist, culture, and in a Jewish family, which is also elitist, by the way. And I had a lot of spiritual experience when I grew up, talking about, purpose, life purpose, and things like that. And that was really important because it really gave me some sense of direction. Whatever was happening for me after that, I had this sense of something was really important inside. And when I was 5 years old, I just felt at one moment that I was conscious. And then I felt that I was conscious, that I was conscious. And then I continued that spiral, feeling I was conscious, that I was conscious, that I was conscious. And I used a huge presence expanded inside of me, and it was very, very big. And I knew I was just something else than just my physical body and my thoughts and my feelings. And it was really beautiful. And I tried to talk around to everybody I knew, and nobody understood what it was. And my mom had no idea. I said, "What did you read that?" She said, "I said, no, mom, I really lived it," but she had no idea. And then, I think I was 12 or something like this. And I read that the Socrates said that his mom was a midwife, and he was the midwife of the soul. I says, wow, that's what I want to do. I want to be, I know I can do that because around, I don't know when, it was maybe 10 or 9 or 7, I really began to see people talking from a mask, and I could see their real source. And I met few people that had the same experience. You can see the real person, the authentic soul person, inspiring them, and then they talk from a different source, which is totally fake and irreal, full of, we call that entities or false personalities. And I couldn't understand. I mean, this is your source. This is nurturing you. This is giving you, blossoming you. And you talk from this place that has nothing to do from who you are, and forget who you are and all the things, the good things out of you. So I really wanted to be a midwife of the soul.
You recognize that at the age of 12?
Yeah. That was, well, no, I had the gift, like a lot of people when they are young, they can see angels, they can see things. So I had the gift to see it, from 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then I lost it a little bit. But I always wanted to bring people back into their deepest place. And then, I lost myself, I do all kind of thing. You become teenager, get crazy. But the good thing is I was having a very famous Aikido teacher that came into Paris. So the man who created Aikido in Japan, Sensei Ueshiba, he was his bodyguard. And he came to Europe, one of the first Aikido master in Europe. Actually, when I was 18, I went to the States, and he gave me a role, a Japanese role, for the highest teacher in all North America. And my teacher was senior to that person. He was very advanced. And I didn't know. And so I went to see this guy with my brother, and my brother left and laughed because they were wearing long dress. The samurai had this long dress with the hakama. So, he laughed, and I stayed, and I was doing Aikido from 12 to 20 or 21 when I went to med school. And what was interesting is two things. First, I met all the people that was doing Feldenkrais, macrobiotic, and things like that in Paris, because they were all doing that very creative thing. It was really for evolution. It was not for destruction. Even though my teacher for a while was doing fights, I think when he came to Paris, he was fighting in the bars, and he was like, whoa.
Your teacher was fighting in the bars?
Yeah, and I don't
What?
know because after 20 years of Aikido, I still cannot do that. You know that, but he
Of
was very
course.
smart. Just to keep sharp, and people were fighting him. And there's like, what? There's only three people. He was giving them knives. He said, wait, wait, wait. Okay, here, everybody get a knife. Now, attack me. And then he was giving them knife because there was not enough people to attack him. And then they said there was two bus of police that were coming, and he was just throw two bus of police out. Policemen coming, and he just throw them, and then he left. I mean, I've never seen that, but that was a story about him. So he was doing a very hard Aikido. Actually, he told me that in Japan, they were doing, every year they have to do a challenge. So when they were with Ueshiba, they had to go somewhere and challenge a boxer, a judo guy, or somebody, so they were challenging somebody from the school. Every year they have to do a challenge. And so that was something that I didn't see, but I went to a very beautiful Aikido that was soft and they were doing, so it was good for me because I was doing medicine. And that's what enters me into the next step of my life. I want to give health to people. It was so healthy for me. We're breathing, we're having barefoot, we are eating microbiotic or raw, all kind of stuff. It was so interesting. And I wanted to give health. So I went to medical school. And it was all death and materialism, reductionism. It was like, we look at this X-ray, there's no broken bone, there's no broken whatever, artery, veins, nerve, lymphatics, and you are healthy. There's nothing wrong with you. So that was their definition of health, and I couldn't believe that because in Aikido we are developing our touch. We're doing some shiatsu sessions, and it was very interesting because it was, like if I teach acupuncture right now, I would tell them, here is the map. Just follow the points. He was not doing that. We never saw any map. He said, touch. What? Just touch. You're going to feel little things. And I feel like, Master, here. Yes, you got one. Follow, there's more. So we are developing our touch. So I became very good at touching. And I was touching people all day, moving them in spiral, avoiding them and moving them. So it was very interesting to do that. And I realized that probably 20 years later, I was doing medicine. I was breathing healthy, eating healthy, moving healthy. And I was full of, my immune system was amazing. I was full of chi. I couldn't even, my friend were doing Qigong. I says, I don't need chi. I need more chi. I'm like, all my meridians are exploding. I have so much energy from my aura going everywhere. And that was medicine. That was the first step in Eastern medicine, this preventative, when you are given a soup when you're sick first, or you are given a movement or breathing or sound. Then if it doesn't work, they will give you some acupuncture or something more advanced. Something in Ayurveda, there is medicine of the god, medicine of the human, and medicine of the devil, of the evil. So medicine of the god is the first step. They will give you, some mantra, or they will give you something to do. And medicine of the human will be the herbs. And then medicine for the evil will be when you have to do surgery, when you have to pay for, when you have side effect, when you have something that will cost you to repair, to heal your body. So we're doing medicine of the god by doing Aikido and feeling so good, all of us. So I went to med school anyway, and I remember that I wanted to do to be a midwife of the soul and study the soul more. And so I went to psychology. I stopped medicine for 1 year. Then after 1 year, I continued medicine because psychology at this time was Freud and Lacan, somebody very intellectual in France, and all those people that were not touching the soul at all, not touching the depths of what I was looking for. So I continued for 2-3 years at the same time as med school, and I finished med school, but I was doing some, I learned there a bit of acupuncture and a bit of homeopathy and hands-on. And every time I was doing something with my hands, people say it was amazing. And I have small hands. They are not really, really flexible or special, but something happened. And I know it was not my hand, it was my presence. I know it was me working on different bodies inside the people. When I touch now, especially, I will just feel, an organ, the gallbladder is out. I would feel that, but then I would feel, wow, this emotion, there's an repressed anger. And I would go into the lineage, wow.
What does that feel like exactly? So you're using your energy that you've developed through your cultivating practices. And when you touch the organs, how does that feel? Does it feel bad? Do you have like a twisting in your stomach? How does that emotional body present itself when you're working with the organs?
So there's different aspects there. First of all, I train myself to pay attention to all the different modalities, sensory modalities, because I teach, so I need to be able to see, to feel, to smell, to not to lick, but you can feel in your mouth, maybe a little taste, all the senses, because people will have different senses. It will be fun to lick on the lymph node and see what your immune system is doing, except they are doing on the armpit and in the groin. It's not very easy. I'm kidding, but the first thing, you can heal without touching. So and you can heal very, you can heal, we talk about a report of people in Australia, Aborigines use a sound a lot and healing a fracture with a vibration. But also, we know a report of thousands miles away, people, or like even in the Bible, Christ healing some, report of people healing or somebody that's have fever or things like this. So you don't really need to touch really physically, but at the beginning it's good. For me, I knew I had to touch because I don't want to go into my strong imagination and begin to, not sure what I'm doing and lose myself. So I get grounded that touch. When you have somebody sick, you can feel in your own body, their own body. So at the beginning, when you do that, you feel in your own body that their gallbladder hurts, and you feel it in your own gallbladder. You want to do it so you don't get sick at the end of the day. If you feel everybody's stuff, you want to be able to just do it for a few seconds and not feel them anymore so much, because you're going to confuse all your patients. You're going to be on top of each other in your body, and also at the end of the day, you're going to carry everybody's stuff, which is a way to heal too. By the way, if you talk about healing, some Chinese people, they will take the disease with compassion and clear it. And that would be their way of healing, but it's kind of dangerous if you don't know how to restore yourself. So you feel that, then you could perceive in the tissue an SOS. You have in the electromagnetic field first, even before you touch, in the aura deformation, it could be hyper or hypo. You can have an inflammation, or you can have a cold, lack of energy, hypotone area. So you have to see there's two types of lesion in general. And you can see a big bump in your aura, or an emptiness, and you can have also, when you touch, some kind of SOS. You're like, ooh. If you have a cancer, you're like, ooh, I don't want to touch this area. You're pushed away, or you have something like that. So there's different types of sensation. But you want to feel what's a normal sensation. For example, I say, when you work on the brain, it should feel like a Rolls Royce or a beehive. You have a Rolls Royce. I've been once, in a car like that once, and it's just smooth. But you have a little bit of a humming in the background. This is a normal physiologic, normal, activity of the organ. And if you know that humming in the body, you can be much more. And there's a hyperactivity. There's a hyper sympathetic activation, sometimes we call that, or you have a hypo. So you feel, and you have some distortion, the aura is distorted and your hands feel something distorted. And we have specific mechanical techniques to feel what's wrong. And that's more for people at the beginning, so they can feel what we're talking about. Normally, the tissue doesn't pull or push, have a nice tone. But when you have a tension, what is the definition of a dysfunction physically in the body? Talking about very physically, what I teach, all the time, is the dysfunction is a barrier. You cannot go there. You're stuck on a bone. Most easy thing on the bone, but he works on fascia and everything else. This joint doesn't move. That's why chiropractors do, osteopaths do. So you have a tension, a barrier on one side, and you have an ease on the other side. So your tissue would have a place, it doesn't move at all. But if you just try the other way in 3D, you'll have a complete ease. It's going further than you needed. You always have both. Like your shadow.
Yeah.
And,
Well, that kind
and
of sounds a little bit like finding one's purpose. Is like there's manifestations of blockages within the body that are probably also correlated with blockages within the mind. So have you
yes.
found that like working within the body, there's actually releases within the mind with specific blockages and trauma? Because this whole interview is about finding and fulfilling your life's purpose. So it seems like you've approached it from more of a somatic perspective, where you've helped people unlock a lot of their blockages through working within their body. Is that correct to say?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Well, you see, and my passion also, because I begin to be passionate. I talk to you about something exciting, so I accelerate my voice.
I love it.
See,
I love it.
accelerating is because I begin to have more French accent, and I this is the passion of it. So yes, I actually, you remember when I was 5, I remember I saw it as a consciousness thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I forced myself to be in the body, to be sure to be grounded, and try to go into the most unconscious part and challenge myself to see if I can see the soul there. So really my work is physical, spiritual. When Alaya, my wife, is doing more emotional, spiritual work. So I go into the body and I say, well, I'm not going to fix your bone or fix your gallbladder or your liver. I'm working on a being with their physical history, personal history, family history, and all the evolution of the human being and vice versa, and and etc. And all this can be under your hands.
Mm-hmm.
And rather than just adjust a bone, you can adjust all this at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So what I was saying on the gallbladder, you can feel a repressed anger, a relationship with your dad, and then the dad with their own mom or grand, and all that can be there because you could track it using consciousness and using what you feel, and the tissue will tell you. It says, okay, is it your dad you're mad at? Non-verbally, you can ask, is it your dad? And you feel, and the tissue exaggerate its dysfunction, its tension. So you can ask question in the inner or verbally, which is good. You want the patient to participate and know what's happening and freeze themselves. But you can ask all these questions and you say, wow, is it the grandpa? Was the father also? Yeah. And this begin to move and you begin to feel the tension increasing, and you're just going to take as much as you can and have a whole 3D under your hand and release all that together. When you release that, you release an impediment to them not only manifesting their soul, but getting in contact with their own soul purpose much more. And I was saying that, I think last time when we met, that I remember something that was very interesting. American and Indian shaman often were supposed to ask you before they heal you, which is a great idea, why do you want me to heal you? What are you going to do once you are healed? Which means like, okay, I'm going to fix your fracture. I'm going to put you to beat up your wife and drink and do whatever you do. Or what are you going to manifest your purpose even more? And that's what, you're going to heal people. But I'm looking all the time for ways to feel their soul purpose in my hands. And I have a very beautiful wave that I follow that is for me expressing a lot of their higher self. And I make them feel even their inner voice more. At the end of the session sometime, and I make them expand more and manifest more their light, their love, and their higher self during the session with a somatic thing. Just because I do somatic now, but I don't need to do that anymore, but it's something I can teach, it's something I can identify myself with, but you don't need to do that.
That expression that you were saying reminds me of what the Qigong doctors would say in older China, where they would first ask their patients, they would say a little bit different. They would say, are you willing to let go of the thing that made you sick in the first place?
Exactly.
And if you weren't, then they wouldn't treat you, which I think is brilliant. So I understand that this is how you do the treatments with your patients. Is there a way that one can do it themselves? Because I'm starting to think that if you are able to do this own internal analysis, you'll get a lot more clarity on your purpose and your direction. So do you teach ways in which one person can do this on their own?
I don't. Well, I kind of work with belief system and the matter and different part of the brain to release belief system and to work and stimulate your own, this wave that I feel that increase your, that's for me your higher self, listening to your higher self, and because there's a way that when you feel this connection head and heart also, that can put together a certain way the head and the heart, the way they were in the embryo, and you can really feel your connection, because often you have a disconnection head and heart. And what we have right now, which is really amazing, this wave is a little bit longitudinal along the body, the wave of what I feel the higher self. And what's interesting is the spike protein physically in the body. When I feel that somebody has a load of spike, the spike go perpendicular and try to stop this wave. It's not something I read or heard, learned somewhere. It's something I feel with my hand that these spikes are not helping you to connect with your higher self. The spike protein. The graphene the graphene oxide are a little bit different in the body. They are more tiny little blades, burning stuff, and you find them in the large intestine. So they are more and more in food and even vitamin. I've heard a little bit in the thyroid. I find them in different places like that. But the spike, the glycoprotein, are in the lymph system and try to block this wave all the time. So it's very interesting for me to see that how they block your purpose. So you have to make a little more effort right now if you have more S protein, spike protein in your body to reconnect with your soul. And I myself make more effort. I feel in the morning when we meditate to reconnect takes a little bit more effort than usual, because we all have a little bit of those, So I don't teach how to do them themselves, but I make them reconnect with themselves and make them feel that moment. You feel that you are connected with yourself now. Sometimes make them make like a wish or take some decision right now. You're so connected with who you are. Yeah. Remember that feeling, that sensation, so they can do it themselves. And you can go do a lot of things on your own, and you are inspired. You don't need anything except that we're so stuck and we want to do things fast a little bit. You need the feedback of a friend, which is called a therapist these days, to show you the blind spots, the blind side, so you can, grow a bit faster and develop yourself faster. Because that's what we do. We just show you blind spot that it's hard for you to see, and you don't read the life new lessons. You don't understand them, and so it go a little bit faster. Is less painful when you can have a therapist helping you a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah. And also, I do few sessions physically, and my wife, as I mentioned, do something emotional and spiritual, heart center therapy, and she will do some session when I'm done. So I do something physically, and then it's time to. Now you want to really feel that, because what we are doing now is working with your repressed anger, is working with your loneliness, with your sense of being abandoned. Then we do some emotional session. After a few emotional session, the body want to readjust with the new thoughts and belief system and emotions. You need to do a physical session. So I have the chance to be able to work like this, from physical to emotional and mental and back to physical. And we just do that like this because you need those two poles. Always spirituality, but spiritual, physical, then mental, emotional, and then go back to the physical. So all that can increase the efficiency of the treatment. And very often I don't tell people come next week. I say, well, you'll know because maybe you don't need me anymore. Maybe, I have 3 types of patients. I do something and they run with it. And next time they're like completely amazing. And they only see me in 6 months. Or there's the person that I treat and they stay exactly the same when I see them next time. And there's people I treat and they regress 30%, 20%. Or 50%, or completely don't want to be healed. They have a hidden agenda that you have your shadow and you don't want to be healed.
Yeah.
Because that creates this and that.
So what have you found are the main blockages? Because I'm assuming you have a lot of really amazing testimonials about transformation with working with your clients. But what have you found to be the common factor of emotional or spiritual or whatever kind of blockages in your patients that are keeping them from actualizing and finding and fulfilling their life's purpose? Because perhaps some of the people that are listening could have those blockages and they feel, if I just overcome this, it will get me more clarity. In your professional experience from working with thousands of people.
In one word or 1,000 words? In one word, we can say, separation, lack of love, And that's something, but what you're going to do with that? So when you really need to heal somebody, you have to look on so many different levels and find the key. Really, the key is not one word. It's like some people, they just have to work with their family problems. Some people have to work with their connection with their soul. Some people have to work with their sense of being alone, not being loved, and work on. Some people have to work with past life. If you live past life, some people have a bunch of entities where they live is full of entities. Some people, they live in a place when they cannot connect to themselves because they are in the middle of an electric Hartmann grid, when they have a bad, knot and some high powered lines, and they cannot connect just because they have the washing. And some people, they don't know their water is totally polluted, where they are, they have no idea, and they cannot connect. So you have to find the fastest way and get a very fast diagnostic where the key. Because even if before you stop them being next to a very high power grid, and they're totally lost, their electric body is totally off, they cannot connect for things like that. So there's many levels to find the keys of where we are. But if we didn't have all this pollution and all these things, it's really a sense of, it's really going to where did we separate from the whole? And, the parts, cannot really be well without the whole being well. So what happened to, when, sometimes you take a decision, not to be well because you like it, and you're mad at your parents, and you want to, you have repressed, anger, and you don't want to be well because that's a way to get back to them. If you have an early judgment like this, there will be something that will stop you from being, connected to your higher self. So there's so many strategy, and it feels like, we begin to see energy, and we use, the nadis, not just
what is that? What is a nadi? How do you spell this?
NADI. Those are the 70,000 up to, I don't know, they count like 100,000 energetic channels around the body. Described by the Indian. The Indian tradition, the Bodhisattva went to China, and that created all the acupuncture movement. In India, the point I call the marma, M-A-R-M-A in India. Okay. And the marma, as what also was inspired the acupuncture system. So these nadis are all those systems around the body of lines, and you can look on Google. There's photos of a nadi or DuckDuckGo, and it's just lines everywhere. And this is lines where you can enter an entity. We describe that as an entity. Anything that doesn't make you feel good and connected with who you are and connected with love is an entity. We call that something, a foreign energy that sucks you, because they're happy for you to be angry all the time, or happy for you to be depressed all the time. They suck your energy and stop you from. So at some point, you want to get rid of some of those guys that has been there for so long, so you can really expand. So there's really, I would love to give you one recipe, but really, everybody is a universe, and I really try to see their key for their situation, the most efficient key. I didn't find yet, maybe one day I will. One way, just boom, and you're connected. But
the entity sounds a lot like in our last summit we interviewed Paul Levy, and his whole thing is on the Wetiko, this kind of Native American concept of this darkness that kind of like is all consuming and twisting. So it sounds very much what you're talking about with these entities. And I think that Alaya, your wife, said something. I think that she described it in a way to where it was like a false mind, where it's like it's not actually your true self. It's just this thing that's kind of within you that's not really Bruno, that's not really Don. It's this false idea of who you are.
And that's what I described, how pervasive it was when I was a kid to see someone totally disconnected from their source. There's nothing that really nurture you, that really give you your compass, where you belong, who you are, what you should do is right there. And why would a person go there and drink some fake whatever, drink the fake whiskey there and whatever it is, and don't get that nurturing, and they're totally disconnected, totally lonely, totally empty, totally but they still are very pervasive. So you have something that actually try to separate from themselves, that gain benefit by you being disconnected, losing your full presence, and you have to fight sometimes a little bit to get rid of those, and you are yourself again. Sometimes it's just, also we work. I mean, that's why I say there's not one recipe. Sometimes you have somebody that died in your surrounding. You have, often I have to let go of some people, physical people that are there. Let's say, your mom you died, you're a woman and your dad passed, but he has the feeling that you cannot go on. You're a woman, you're a poor woman, you're a victim, you cannot go on without them. And even once they are dead, people say sometimes you don't really realize you're dead. You stay around for a long time and you just have somebody sucking you, thinking projecting that idea. You're not good enough, you're not strong enough, you're a weak person, you're disempowered, and they just stay there and they just suck your energy for years. And then, wow, there's somebody right there on your shoulder, just let it bring it back to the light. So those are different possibilities. But what we talk about, what the American mentioned, for me, it's much more common, and it's almost that entity that have nothing to do with the earth. They have to go back some other place in the universe. They are stuck in the wrong plane and they don't know what to do, and they just suck you. And sometimes it's not their best place. They'd be happy to be somewhere else. So that's a way to begin to heal them, to identify them, and to say, find a better place for them in the universe. It's not your place. Your body is not made for that. And they are not the most happy with your body either. Yeah. And you find the best place for them. Yeah. And you let them go. And every idea of feeling of thought that doesn't increase your presence, increase your love, open your heart and connection, at some point is some kind of entity like that. Any disconnection from, anytime when you feel separated and you have to fight to get somewhere and you don't feel the connection, and all those feelings are always created, in my experience, by something you could get rid of it in your space at some point. And by moving a bone, sometimes you just replace something, and those energies are opportunistic. They are there because you didn't own you don't put your presence in your whole kingdom. And you don't go to this room. It's like if you never go to a room in your apartment, it's going to be rot, it's going to be to have mushroom and candida and things you don't want to go there. But those mushroom and in this cave will, that you never open the door to, are just opportunistic. Once you open the door and you really own that place in your, this cave, let's say, everything gonna leave. So it's just because you don't take all your power, you don't take all your power, you don't take all your. Some people are afraid to shine, to be all they can be. It's very, very common. They have a nice, energetic body, everything is great, but they don't want to shine. So talking about purpose, I feel like connected with your purpose is going through the arteries and also some fluid like the cerebrospinal fluid, right? So somebody that is not connected with their higher purpose can have a heart attack. You see that in a type B personality. The arteries are going to clot because you don't listen to this higher voice and this connection. That's more connecting with the purpose. Now, probably your next summit, manifesting your purpose in the world. So once you connect, let's say you are Van Gogh and you're really good and you connect and you do those amazing paintings, but now you cannot sell yourself. You cannot sell your painting. You cannot have somebody help. You don't connect with the world.
Well, that's sort of what we're talking about with the fulfilling part.
Yes. So that's the veins. Yeah. So this stuff, once you receive your higher purpose, to manifest it or being afraid to manifest it, that's the veins. I cannot manifest it. I'm not part of this world. I don't know how to behave. I don't know how to express I know what's my purpose. I cannot manifest it. That's the veins in the body. Those are the heavy veins, the clot, the phlebitis, things like this.
So do you think like a type of detox might be helpful if it's associated with the veins, like a specific metal detox or
yes, but the best way is to really connect with your purpose and find a way to manifest your purpose, because they are all illusion. Why couldn't you manifest your purpose? People are not going to receive you. Well, maybe when you were 2 years old, your mom couldn't hear you, like my mom couldn't hear, my dad couldn't hear me. But now, if you're an adult, you can always find a way to find people that can listen to you and manifest who you are. It just become almost a habit to stay small and not shine and be afraid to be repressed if you express who you are.
Yeah.
There's no real reason. If you go to the cause like that, you can help with anything you want. For the veins, you can use bioflavonoid and all kind of things. But first, the cause is because you still have this habit, this entity or this belief system that you cannot shine, and it would be dangerous for you to shine. And so that's interesting in terms of if you have venous problem, that's more the manifestation on your soul, on your body. What the arteries is more listening. You are type B, you're a big business person, never have time to listen to who you are, and you don't listen to who you are because you want to lie, you want to make big money, you want to step on other people. It's not very ethical. So you don't listen to this descent of who you are, and you begin to block your arteries, for example. So you have artery and vein manifesting who you are into this world. Oh, I cannot, the world is too difficult, I don't know how to do this, I cannot. And then that's the veins that begin to be sluggish.
Interesting. So one common theme that I've seen within this series is that it's relatively easy to find your purpose. It generally has to do with the things that you have a proclivity for. It's generally the things that people say that you're good at. It's generally the things that you like to do.
Passion,
but then I think the next biggest step is there's that fear blockage of, how can I turn this into a career, or that's never going to work, or there's going to be judgment, like as you were saying with the fear of shining. So when you come across clients that have those blockages, what are generally the recommendations you give to them? Or have you come across of any of those blockages in your life? Because you said that at 12, you had that realization that you wanted to be the midwife of a soul. I'm sure that you probably had tons of blockages where you're like, well, I'm 12. I don't know if I can do that now.
Midwife of the soul? I mean, how many men are midwife, and how do I practically, what do I do?
Yeah, how can I be a midwife? I'm a man.
What hospital have midwife of the soul? Well, I don't exactly. Sometimes you have this kind of purpose, and you have to understand a few things. When you have blockages like that, they are often learning. Once you overcome them, you will be able to help other people having this kind of blockage, or will be an expert.
They're learned blockages, is that what you're saying? Like they've been taught to you?
Yeah, you're going to find the antidote for them, and they're going to be very important on your path to let go of some of those blockages. And you're going to be very good at helping other people with the same type of blockages. You're going to be very good to not make the mistake again. The idea is, yes, you have this connection with your soul, which is fairly easy, but it depends, And yes, you also have the universe supporting you there. So you have sign from the universe coming, helping you. Once you step into just little step into the dream the universe dreamt for you, as we call. When you step there, and the universe respond, and one more step, and you respond more and more, and synchronicity happens, everything happens then. So this is what should happen. Since any part of this scenario, something blocked, is something for you to learn. And that's also when you need to focus on to find specifically what part of the scenario is blocked, receiving, expressing, blah, blah, blah. And you find for you find if it's physical, emotional, and you're going to learn something and release a huge block. So it's just whenever you feel, I'm blocked there, in that little part, you're just going to get a little physical, emotional, that's why you have therapists to give you this help to accompany you where you could go on your own, but for whatever reason, karmic or family or whatever it is, you cannot make that step. So you have to find this antidote, and that's something amazing to learn. But sometimes you need some help. That's why you have therapists, and that's it. So it's just that you have to know that the universe is also here to help you. And if you don't listen to whatever is telling you all the time, there's a little voice telling you where to go all the time inside, but it's a little whisper. You can scream with your ego and, I want this, I want that. You have to be a little more calm. Maybe you want to meditate, and wow, this voice is always there, giving you your compass. And the universe is all the time responding to it. And when you go in that direction, things that are blocking that, you just want to have a session on it. You want to work on it and say, okay, I do this and do that, and I get blocked. What's going on?
Mhm.
So you want to see, maybe you're following a family pattern. For example, in the family lineage, it's just that, in 1920, your grandfather decided that to be strong and to just, be very controlling over people is a way to survive. And maybe you are born and you just non-verbally receive the same information, the same map of life. So everything is good. You receive your purpose, and your purpose is to be whatever, but you are so strong and controlling. Now today in America, people don't like to be, and you're like, no, I don't want to be with Don. He's just so controlling. And so, and then this will stop you, but you receive your purpose, you know what to do. You just have a baggage that's not appropriate anymore. And this thing that's not appropriate is going to give you, it's like, we call that this inner shadow, inner treasure. Those little shadow that really blocks you is a place when you have a big treasure. You release that and you explode, you expand. So it's just a matter of, that's why we're therapists. If not, we wouldn't need therapists. Those are the blind spots. You realize, my brother is the same, my aunt is the same, my uncle is the same. They're all like this, and they never succeed in life because at some point they are too controlling. You let go of that, for example, and then, wow, that's all. That's just a thing blocking me because I couldn't connect with the people I need to connect. They don't like me to be like this, and you let go of that and you're done. So you have to identify that thing. For everybody is a little bit different, and learn from it and let go, and then the universe will respond to you, and the synchronicity happens.
What is the best way to quote unquote let go? Like, let's just say there was a blockage with the trauma, because I personally have worked with people where they had like verbal and physical abuse and sexual abuse as well, and to tell them to let it go was actually quite disempowering because it was still affecting them on an emotional level. So one of the ways that actually Leslie, she's one of our interviewers on this, she said something very profound to me. She said, it's better to say to make peace with it as opposed to let it go. But in your experience, how have you been able to see the best way to let it go or to make peace with these blockages in your experience?
I don't let go. I don't think it's the best expression to let go. I mean, you could say forgive. Sometimes some occasion is fantastic to turn the page, forgive, but to let go of something that really bugs you. What do I remember? I had a guy that came because he had a stroke. Just let's go physical, emotional, spiritual lineage, So the guy got a stroke, So, okay. And I just touched him and I said, well, okay, we can work on the stroke, but you have very, very high tension. So yeah, I'm treating for my high blood pressure. All right. But, so a few minutes later, I feel a lot of anxiety. So he has a lot of anxiety. So the anxiety created high blood pressure that is out of control, eventually creates a stroke. As we said, those messages from the body are phone calls. You want to listen to those. You don't want to numb things like that. You want to cut the rope. You want to listen and say, what's going on? Well, we're going to have you a stroke because you have too much high pressure and you've got to pay attention. Why do you have high blood pressure? Because you're anxious. Why? Because his body, he has been abused when he was 5 or 6 years old, sexually by, forget who, in the family, right? So today, 60 years later, the guy's looking behind his shoulder, symbolically or, like energetically, to be sure, like, man, I have to run. Every 5 seconds, the guy is looking for the next trauma to come. The body has no time, no sense, the tissue have no sense of time and space, and he's looking for the next hit when there's absolutely nobody able to touch him today, but he's creating a high blood pressure with anxiety, because of something that happened 60 years earlier, and now at 65, he has a stroke. Why is he anxious like that? Because his father himself had been, let's see if it's his father that abused him. His father has been abused by his own father, they are all been abused like this. And you have to look for the ancestor that started that. Why did they thought that was a good solution in his life to survive or to be happy or whatever? And he can go back into the cause of that, into, okay, man, your grandfather did that because of this. Your father did that because of this. Okay, can we let your tissue realize it's over? You survived. You're totally safe. You don't need to be anxious. Nobody's ever going to hurt you. Your dad has passed already. You're fine. And by dropping the anxiety, this constant hyper sympathetic upregulation, creating an immense mess into this body, is a false reality. That's why you create you're in a false situation. You create a movie. You're in a movie that doesn't exist right now, in this moment, laying down on my table with his wife next to me, with me, super loving, touching him. He's just super anxious, waiting for somebody to come and try to abuse him. I mean, there's something that we have to adjust here, because it's a complete illusion. And he has a false belief. It's a message that doesn't serve him, telling him every 5 seconds somebody's going to abuse him. And we have a lot of this situation. Then we have you focus on it so much, you don't have the energy to focus on yourself in a peaceful way. And that's perfect for those entities, because they suck your energy. You have a lot of energy every 5 seconds. You have a lot of hyper. Then the entity going to suck it, and you don't have time to connect with who you are and be able to chase that entity away. It's perfect. Everybody's happy, except the guy is going to die soon if he doesn't stop, because you have a stroke with a paralysis, and next time it may be worse. So we want to that's a chain of events. You go from the most physical medical diagnostic. You have a stroke. Okay, you have a stroke. What can we do about it? Well, you have a little bit of hypertension. We're going to give you a medication. But then you can see a whole chain that we are going to release. And then he's going to be able to connect to who he is. And then he's going to be able to enter a totally new dimension with more presence. Because being so tense on my table when he's completely loved and nobody's around is a complete false reality. And we live in a lot of those belief systems that create this false reality. So I don't just ask him to let go. I'm just looking into where we can find the cause of it and deactivate the bomb that's sticking inside of him. Make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's a difficult job. I mean, sometimes the difficult job is some people is coming who have to do Sherlock Holmes to find where it is. And you have to use a lot of techniques and gift and knowledge to be able to do that. And then you have all kind of game. The person come and want to prove you that nobody can heal him. The person come, and so you have a lot of game now. You have to, now we have games, now we have games with a therapist, or with themselves, and then you have the ego against the higher self, or have the guy who says, I have a stroke. I don't want to know about my emotion. Who cares about my emotion? I have a stroke, it's here. I have a stroke here, and, I don't want to know about my emotion. Well, you have all kind of game now. You have to work around. It's not always easy to heal. Is the person ready to heal?
Yeah.
Or sometimes even people need to continue. They're not ready. They need to get the lesson, the suffering, or whatever they need. They need before they can heal. So sometimes you are just like, I'm a bad therapist. I cannot heal you because it's not time. It's just not time for you to be able to open. It's going to be too much too fast. So there's a lot of game now to find the right timing and the mastery of the art, when you can treat, when you cannot treat, how far you go, what the request of the ego when they come to you, what the request of the soul. The soul may tell you one thing, they have a stroke, but the soul comes and says, please work on my liver right now. You work on the liver, but you connect with the soul, you connect with the ego, and would you, because the soul is going to say one thing, the ego going to pay you at the end of the session. Yeah. Something that you don't like. No, but there's all kind of game. I'm kidding. There's all kind of game that you have to, that's the next step into.
Sure. Yeah. It seems like this idea of like finding and fulfilling your purpose is just like a 1 and 2 step. Like, oh, found it. Now I'm going to fulfill it. And like you're saying with this ego playing your games, there's always a next step to it. It's an ever unfolding evolution of this next step. It's a process, exactly. And
you know why it's a process? Because we used to do that at the end of every class from Alaya's class. I was leading that little, at the end of the class, I was leading the little meditation, finding the dream of your soul. Remember? And I was asking the question, what is a dream the universe dreamt for you and just for you? And people were entering, and then we put them in the center and they share, everybody was supporting them. It was beautiful. And you could see 30, 40, 50 people in a room, all expressing their dream. And you could see basically after the dream of each person, the beginning of the dream of the planet. What is the dream of the planet? What is a dream? What the planet wants us to express? And when everybody expresses their dream, how does it look like? It's very beautiful. And you could see the interconnection between all of us and our job. This person is doing that, helping that person with this, helping that person. This guy won't be a big, biodynamic farmer. And this one guy doesn't want to be the best baker to eat something and find your soul. And this guy so all that connect. This guy want to be a super accountant, helping this guy being a baker, helping this. You could see basically, I'm just making example,
Sure.
This interconnection and your progression and your soul also, you are not an individual person.
Mm-hmm.
You have really a collective soul. So the first layer of your aura are individual, and then you can see those aura layer are more and more collective and less, more and more cosmic. So you grow and discover your purpose aligned to the purpose of the planet. And so that's why
I see. So it seems to almost transcend your purpose, and this has also been another common theme. It seems like purpose transcends above personal willpower and personal desires. It becomes more of like a planetary or even like a cosmic kind of realization.
That's why we ego assassins. We ego assassins because
ego assassins.
that was your idea, though. Actually, but the idea is because that's why we formulated like, what is a dream? The universe dreamt for you, not coming from you. It's just you receiving something and expressing it and listening to the universe, helping you manifest it. So it's a process between you and the universe, little by little unfolding it, the universe little by little helping you until you get more and more clear. And then what was interesting too, was super interesting. When you are connected with the dream of your soul, with your purpose, you want to help somebody. It's your great honor to help somebody purpose. So, you come to my house, you be my guest because I want to help you it's totally natural. To help somebody else purpose, the more is so natural. But when you are not connected with your purpose, what happens so often, you are here to bash and disconnect people and hurt people that have a purpose. And you've seen kids like that. The parents are bashing them. They shut up because they are jealous, or that, I don't know what the exact word, but when you don't have a purpose, you try to disconnect people from their own. You're annoyed by people having a purpose.
Yeah, you're forcing your own insecurities onto them.
Yes, and you don't like people with purpose. And so you have a lot of people, you see they grow up and their parents shut them out, their neighbor, they're afraid or jealous, I don't know what the word, of your purpose. Mm-hmm. And so you see that often, that people without a purpose hate people with purpose and try to shut them down. It's so common. You see that, oh my God, this guy is like that. I bet he doesn't have any sense of his purpose. He's so angry, he's so sour, and that's something you see a lot.
Yeah, it's so interesting how there are like objective commonalities within life. Like, you will almost always inevitably be bitter and miserable if you're not living your purpose. You will almost always objectively be bitter and miserable if you haven't addressed some unhealed trauma. It's like it almost seems like there's this objective way of approaching reality where inevitably it's like, okay, if things aren't aligning to what's going on, it's probably one of the following things. One, I haven't addressed some trauma. One, I'm not listening to my purpose, or, all these things. And then you can kind of do by process of analysis, like, it's probably this. And then you deal with it. Yeah. Yeah.
And what you do when somebody comes, that's what I do. I can see what this, by experience all this scenario, and what is the key for that purpose, that person. And that's why you cannot find a key for everybody. But okay, well, that's the kind of thing he's doing. Yeah, he could almost write. I think some philosopher or some psychologist wrote some. They call that the path of the hero, something like that. The
hero's journey.
Well,
the hero's journey.
Yeah, the hero journey, for example, and you're supposed to go there. You're gonna have some kind of block, the dark night of your soul, and then you're gonna be stuck here or there or there. You could almost make a little diagram there. There's a lot of options, but you could, a diagram that most people, therapy psychologists, agree that's a path we're having right now. Now with the vaccination, it's a little bit more difficult because, as I said, it seems to disconnect you from who you are. Also, it's one more factor that's gonna impede your clear connection with your source.
That's a whole other can of worms. That's a whole
Congress, another summit. But
Yeah.
it's something else that we didn't have, until recently in our,
Yeah,
you know,
it's a recent thing that has been
yeah,
affecting
to
a
detox
lot.
that to help somebody. For example, I do that. I really look into, okay, man, what is your load of spike? I detox that. It takes 5-10 minutes. Look how much graphene you have, and now, okay, now let's look into what we can do for, people regress. For example, I have neonatal reflex that reappear after vaccination or something like that. You want to re-inhibit those neonatal reflex, primitive reflex, we call that. Then we can treat the person now more easily because there's no influence of the spike protein anymore. Okay, now I can see that person. Just one more layer, it takes a few more minutes, in the treatment to be able to reconnect. Yeah, it's cool.
Okay, so I want to end this session off with just, if you could summarize in one sentence, what do you think is the best way to help people find and fulfill their life's purpose?
Love.
Just love? Let's try.
As a therapist, how as a therapist, what's the best way to help somebody find their own purpose? You could say find your own purpose yourself. Being in your presence, you find your own purpose yourself. You expand as much as you can, and then the person can reconnect with who they are, or you can see what part of them is not connected, and then because I'm trying to be as much as possible into my own source, I could see, wow, that's where he's not connected. Let me help you there. As a therapist, again, that's the easiest way to connect. As somebody as an individual, say, how can I reconnect with my own purpose? Then that's all the thing you said is, finding what's your passion, what you are good at, what's easy for you, what you feel your universe is supporting you. You feel like I was waiting before being a therapist and so on. I was good with my hand, but I was waiting for the green light. I was waiting, I want the green light from the universe. And then I just do boom, 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 and extraordinary healings. And I fell, boom, I got the green light. And now I'm going to be, a professional, osteopath, so that I'm looking for the green light. But first you just look for all the things, it's not so hard to, as you said, put the list of, take one step, like, oh, I like to do, take one step. Wow, this feels good, and there's feedback, and then one more step, because it looks very far away. And to be a midwife of the soul, what is it that so maybe I study a bit more about the soul, or how can I help? So I go into psychology, philosophy, medicine. Oh, that I like better. So I'm going to go there. You make one step, and it's going to just feel easy. And if there's a block all the time, the same block, then you just ask for therapist that knows about that to help you with the block, whatever it is. Makes sense. Did I answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you very much, Bruno. It's very, very interesting to hear what you have to say. Thank you so much.
So much, my friend. Blessing. Have a great summit, everyone.